Coming up on today's Locked On Mavericks is a one more thing over the weekend, and it's my first one more thing. So I want to tell you why this year the Dallas Mavericks can win the NBA title. And plus, at the end, I'll tell you exactly why I'm back on Locked On.
I'm here because I have to be.
Dallas is going to get a seat at the table.
That's it. It's me versus the machine. Don't let his whiteness take away from his quickness.
You can rest later. You're young.
I'm never recovered here.
Wait. One more thing. Yeah, that's my voice. Nick put my voice in that intro. I should have started charging. Guys, you are locked on the Dallas Mavericks. This is one of your co-hosts, Isaac Harris. I don't even know what to put after my name right now. Formerly of the Dallas Mavericks, content creator, media member. I'm pretty much all locked on now. So let's do this. Locked on Mavs every day. Isaac Harris of Locked on Mavs. If you don't like me, then this isn't your show. You probably didn't even click on this if you don't like me. But this is a one more thing. This is my first one more thing. Riding solo, guys. One more thing's kind of where the name of it was born out of earlier in our time together. You know, Locked On. We kind of have a show. We kind of hover around this 30-minute mark, and we're like, hey. At the end of each show, we try to hit that 30-minute mark, somewhere around there. And I would always be like, hey, wait, one more thing. And it became a thing. And now a listener has made a crown that I have in my office that says one more thing, King, which is super funny. And, Nick puts that as my title when we do shows together and all that stuff. So let's do this. One more thing. It's my dog's here too. She's super excited. She's like, you're back podcasting at nights again. Yes, I am. So these are quick hit, kind of smaller shows if you're kind of new to them. So it's not the full 30 minutes, not both of us a lot. But I want to talk about, with it being my first week back, I want to kind of zoom out, look big picture, and just say why this is the first year going into a season that I think the Mavs can actually win the title. And then I'm like, hey, they can do this. And this is why they can do it. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about a few stats with it, why I think they have a shot to win this thing. And then at the end, I'll answer the question of hey, why I'm back at Locked On. I did a Q&A earlier in the week through our Mavs Insiders and our subtext, which if you haven't joined that, it's a great way to support us. But also, we send stuff out almost every day via text, and we do these Q&As. We get text back. Nick and I both see a lot of those texts and stuff, or every single text that comes through, really. So join that. We'll do Q&As. We have some other stuff planned with that coming this season. So we're super excited with that. But let's do this. Let's talk about why the Mavs can win the NBA title. So I think this is one of the most fun, complete rosters that this team has going into a season. I think it's the best roster that we've had since Luka joined the Mavs. I said this the other day to some friends, just talking casually, and I'm like, you know what? I kind of just casually said it, but I think I actually really do believe it, because I think they got better. They made it to the finals last year, and I do think they got better. Contrary to some people who think they didn't, which is, I don't know, kind of weird. Also, shout out to me coughing, and when I haven't coughed all day, and I just hit record, and now I'm starting to cough again. So I think it's something about this show, because if you've been listening to the show for a long time, I literally had a cough for a year, and I guess I should have checked out a cough with a doctor or something. But I think the Mavs can win a title for a couple different reasons. To win an NBA title, I think you have to have one of two things. You got to have just an historically stacked roster, aka the Boston Celtics, or you got to have a top 5 player in the league. And that's why I don't think Jason Tatum's a top 5 player in the league. I think he's a top 10 player in the league. And it's not a disrespect. It's you can't say anything about Tatum right now, or else it's disrespect. But you look at past champions, and outside of Boston being this, just this insane of a team. Just the story in the, I think it was the New York Post. They came out earlier on Friday about, why the Celtics sold or why one of their owners sold, and this kind of beef over the payroll, because the payroll is going to be insane. It's going to be over like $500 million. This is one of the most historically stacked financial teams of all time. I guess it is, instead of one of. So if you don't have that type of roster, then you have to have a Jokic, which was the year before that. You got to have a Steph Curry, which was the year before that one. You got to have a Giannis, which was the year before that one. So you got to have this like top 5 player in these playoffs, in the season, in these big moments. And obviously Dallas has that. Like, that's one of the hardest things to do when you're trying to build this like contender, or you have this franchise and you're trying to take these swings at these high draft picks, because every team is trying to find who their cornerstone is, and not just a good player, but do they have a franchise cornerstone that has the possibility to be a top 5 player in the league. And Dallas didn't just do that, but they got that in Luka Doncic. So I think you gotta have that. They have that. Check that off. I think you have to be able to win different ways. And this is where we've seen with this Mavericks team over the past year, definitely last season, maybe even the season. Oh, no, we don't reference that season before that. But that year last year, and you look at how they can win different ways. You look at them in the clutch. You look at him and Kyrie. I'll mention Kyrie in a second. You look at having Derek Lively down low, to where, you don't have to have the 45-point Luka games to win basketball games. You don't have to have you don't have to hit 23s in a game for you to win a basketball game. You can do all these different ways and win in all these different fashions. And that's the sign of a really good team too. And that's what I put that in there also. And then let's go back to Kyrie. I think even if you have one of those top 5 players, you also have to have a really good sidekick. You got to have a number 2, a clear number 2. It's not, I think when you go back years ago, it's like, oh, everybody's trying to form the big 3. I mean, you can kind of look at, Boston, it's hard to include Boston in any of this. All right. Because Boston's just this, I hate including Boston's like roster in this, because it's really hard to duplicate. So, you look at like a Milwaukee, they had like a Chris Middleton. You look at Jokic having like a Jamal Murray. You have some of these teams that if they're not super teams, then you even go back to, I guess if we want to count the bubble, you look at like Anthony Davis with LeBron. So you have these sidekicks, and Dallas has found that. This is why Dallas swung so early to get a KP, and didn't work out in the long run, but they swung for it because they realized you have to have this like number 2 option alongside your star. And this is where KP comes into play. Actually, Kyrie. Sorry, I was thinking about KP. This is where Kyrie comes into play, and you already have Kyrie. Then you got to have some vets. You got to have some vets that's been there, done that. And this is where, you have a Kyrie Irving who's won an NBA title. You have a Klay Thompson who's won the NBA title post-COVID. So like recently, and then all the titles, all the rings he has, before that. So you have vets on the team. They brought back Markieff Morris the other day. So you have all these different pieces on the roster that are not just into the bench vets, but also vets that are in the rotation, that are starting, that are key parts of the team. And that is, I feel like I could only like preach for an Andre Iguodala for so many of these Locked On Mavs years, because I'm like, they need a vet in the rotation. They need that. And now they have Klay, Kyrie, and these guys that have been there and done that. I want to take a quick break and then come back and talk about a defensive rating thing, because that's something that I think could hold them back, but also think, am I scared to say it's a little overrated? I guess I am a little scared to say it's overrated, but oh well. We'll talk about it. This podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. You've heard a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get 3-week free trial on NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Guys, Sunday Ticket on YouTube TV, pretty awesome. Then with your YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. That's huge. I'm a Ravens fan. Get to watch that. Let's look at FanDuel right now. Look at some odds. Let's lean away from the NFL. Let's look at some NBA stuff. You know what I think is fascinating right now? how much. Well, one, Luka Doncic is the favorite for the MVP award right now on FanDuel. He's a plus 350. Jokic a plus 400. So it's pretty close there. Check these odds out for the Defensive Player of the Year next year. Victor Wembanyama, a minus 160. Second is Chet Holmgren at a plus 1200. That's pretty insane. And then Most Improved Player, Wemby is the favorite to win that also. And Rookie of the Year, Zach Edey, leading the way at a plus 500 for that. So that's FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com, download America's #1 sports book, and take advantage of that deal, guys. Come on. I didn't hit the bumper thing before it. Here, I'll go ahead and hit it now.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
Bam. Look how beautiful that was. Nick's going to laugh at me so hard. I didn't hit it. Dang it. I even had a note to hit it to. Whatever. Give me grace, guys. Come on. All right. Defensive rating. If there's one thing that's going to really hurt this Mavericks team outside of injuries, I hate using the injuries thing. Let's not use injuries. It's the defense. And I can't say I'm not worried about it because I am. I am worried about the defense for this Mavericks team. But do we have to be a top 5 defense to win an NBA title? Is that something we have to have? So I think when you look at before like 2020, you could say that you almost had to have a top 10 defense. So let's just go through, follow with me here. But let's look at some defensive ratings for some teams that won an NBA title back before 2020. So Lakers in 2020, they were 3rd. 2019 Raptors, they were 5th. 2018 Warriors, 11th. So just outside the top 10. 2017 Warriors, 2nd in defense. Cavs in 2016, they were 10th. So right on the line there. Warriors before that in 2015, 1st. Spurs 2014, 3rd. Heat 9th. Heat 4th. Mavericks in 2011, 8th. I mean, we're going back a decade now. Now, let's look at the past like 5 years. Boston last year, 3rd. I mean, once again, historic team. Denver, the year before that, 15th. Okay. Golden State, the year before that, 1st. Really dang good team. Milwaukee, the year before that, 14th. So if you're telling me over the past 4 years, there's 2 teams that's won the NBA title, 2 out of the 4 teams, 50%. Ooh, big 50% of 4 here. Has finished 14th and 15th in defensive rating. So can we say, I think Dallas is going to be a historic offensive team. All right. But can we just say a mediocre defense? Can they just be average? I think that's what you're asking of this team. Of course, you want them in the top 10 and all of that. But I don't think you have to look at it. I think some people will say it. Some people will throw it out and say, man, in order for them to win an NBA title, they have to be in the top 10 in defense. I don't think that's the case. I think that they can finish 10th, 11th, 12th, somewhere through there in defense, be around that middle mark, be around the average on defense in the league, and have that historic offense. And I think you got a shot to win the NBA title. There you go. I think they got it, guys. Looking across the roster, I mean, especially adding Dinwiddie to that backcourt rotation off the bench. And now you just got to ask where's the holes? It's hard to go into stuff because we got so much stuff we're going to talk about over the next week or so of some individual player stuff and all of that. But I think perimeter defense is definitely something. I'm not worried about the center rotation. Lively's going to be incredible. Gafford backing him up. Dwight as a 3rd center. Sure. All of that. It's some of the perimeter stuff. And this is where my guy, Omax, if he can take just a step forward and be, get some minutes off the bench, that would be huge for this team. You can't bank on it right now, especially after summer league, but they need a little bit more perimeter defense. So I'll be curious to see if they try to address that at some point, or how they could possibly get a little bit more of that. I think that's one of the holes on this team, but they got a shot. And this is one of the first seasons going into it in the Luka era that I'm like, I'm going to pick them to win the NBA title this year. and I haven't like consciously picked them to win the NBA title. I mean, last year I worked for the Mavs, so I kind of had to, but no, I'm just kidding. It wasn't that bad with the biased homerism and all that stuff. But yeah, I think they have a really good shot at winning the NBA title this year. I'm super excited. All right, the end of this. Got multiple questions on the Q&A over subtext and our Mavs insiders on, hey, why are you back at Locked On? Like this, it was cool, whatever. Why'd you leave the Mavs? What about your time with the Mavs? So many questions about like any inside info about the Mavs. I'm like, guys, if there's a totem pole of the Mavs, like I'm like underground on the lowest of the low of the totem pole during my time with the Mavs. So don't act like I know anything. I don't know anything. Sorry to not be able to share much with you. But one of the main questions I got a lot is like, hey, why'd you leave the Mavs? And it's a great question. I mean, I grew up as this kid that I shared it multiple times in Kentucky. It was just like small town kid. That's like, I can't imagine telling that kid, hey, you're going to work for a pro team one day, a professional franchise. Not only that, but in the NBA, the Dallas Mavericks, like that's crazy. And, that opportunity to work with those guys and to work for a team and just to walk into the office and like the aura of that of like, dude, I don't belong here. What is this? I'm not, this, look at me. Like, why am I here? But just to get to work with, a guy like Mike Marshall, who is a creative genius in this space. And, to get to work on a consistent basis with Bobby Corella and Katya and Chopper and those guys over there is just such a talented crew. And, we go into the summer and go into this off season and, there's a lot of changes and stuff happening with the Mavs. I mean, heck, the Cuban sold, a chunk of his majority of his stake. And so there's just so much changes, stuff happening with the Mavs. And, DLLS comes into town. It's hard for me to say it. And, Bobby and Kat head over there doing awesome things. They're so talented, good people. And, in the midst of all of that, I'm like, all right, there's so much changing. There's so much happening. I could have stayed there at the Mavs. Some people's like, hey, did you get fired? Why'd you get fired? I'm like, I didn't get fired with the Mavs. I could have stayed there. I could have kept doing my show there and working with some cool new people coming in and some new ideas and different stuff like that. But just kind of like reevaluating things over the summer. It's like so much stuff is changing. Do I need to reevaluate where I'm at with Mavs coverage? I obviously work a full-time job as the communications pastor at Irving Bible Church here in DFW. And that's my main job, and got the family and 2 kids and all that stuff. And so I started looking at it, met up with Nick, and, Nick and I've stayed super close, and I consider him one of my closest friends. And, as we started like talking about it, and it's like, there's just like possibility for me to come back. And I'm like, it could work out. And so yeah, talked with my wife. And my biggest thing with coming back to Locked On is when you get to when you're like in this like creative space and you love doing creative things and building something, and you get kind of like addicted to it. It's like part of your DNA. And that's been one of the coolest things for Nick and myself is, 6-7 years ago when we took over this podcast, I remember some of those first download numbers. I remember that first paycheck that was like, pretty low. We're talking about like taking the family out to dinner a few times type of low. And that's, with that check, and that's it. And I remember those days, and to look at the work and the creativity and all the new ideas that Nick and I gotten to do over those like 6 years. It's a lot of fun. It's time consuming for sure. But I did miss that angle of building something that, you step into the Mavericks and it's already built for the most part. Like it's a freaking organization, a professional franchise. So getting to come back, do this with Nick, one of my close friends, and get to continue building this show. It ended up working out. Now there's some parameters and stuff for me moving forward in this kind of new deal with me back on the show of like, hey, I'm not going to be on every single day. Majority of days, you're going to hear from me a lot. helping out with some, doing some stuff behind the scenes. Like it is it's back being a partnership. Nick and I doing Locked On Mavs, but like slightly, it's not going anywhere. So like that's the cool thing too of getting to work alongside this like cult hero dude that kind of like rose from the ashes out of nowhere, and now so many Mavs fans love him. He's been on the show and done so good of a job over the past year with Nick and his YouTube streams and shows and stuff. And of course, I love Dana and knew Dana before, and Reggie, got to know him a little bit at games and stuff. But now Reggie went to that city in Houston. But yeah, so it is a lot of fun, so we can kind of keep the best of both worlds. At least that's what we're hoping for and trying for, and some other new plans and new things, and going to games and all that stuff again. So yeah, super excited. That's hopefully that helps a little bit. I just felt like I've just gotten so many random questions, and now I'm like, I'm just gonna put at the end of this one more thing, and now I can just like send the show to people and just be like, here you go, listen to the end of this, and hopefully it gives you some insight. And plus, man, just Locked On as a general, I think I gotta believe in it. If I believe in something and I can get behind it, then I'm gonna go all out for it. And I believe in what Locked On's about, and what David and Tegna and them are building, and what it's been about from the beginning of this like personal daily show that fans can get everything that they want about a team. And something we've always wanted to do is like build a community. It's like we don't want to just produce content, but we want to build a community and have kind of create this show to where we wanted to share personal stuff. We want to share hard stuff, all the stuff to where like you guys feel like you know us. And I think that's one of the things that we did accomplish in a way. And hopefully we can still accomplish. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for the season. I'm excited to be back. This past year, a year ago, I stepped away to, it was a combination of things to join the Mavs as this professional franchise, which was awesome. This awesome opportunity. Also to focus on some mental health stuff and some family stuff and some things behind the scenes, and kind of got to do both of those. And now here we are. So yeah, I got some parameters in place to protect some of that. And my wife signed off. So that's one of the big things is my wife signed off on me rearranging part of our bedroom again to have a little podcast studio. And for me to have some late nights, not all the late nights. You might see more slightly on the late night West Coast games, but you'll see a lot of me. And yeah, there you go. Hopefully I answered that. Yeah, and this hopefully this puts like kind of a bow on. I don't want to continue talking about like why I'm back and all that crap. And some of you just don't even care, or you don't like me, and now you're like, hey, just tell me, give me the notifications when Slightly's back on or somebody else. And I'm sorry. So yeah, let's do this. It's another season. I'm excited. And let me find the outro for this thing, and we'll wrap this thing up, and we'll see you Monday morning for a new show with Nick and myself. Cool. No music.